I do wonder, we've talked about this here and there, and I know, like anybody talking about long-term hex staking, you mostly do get flamed by people at this point, obviously, because the prices are down so much, and
Oh
they
well.
weren't around for the beginnings of hex. But I do wonder, like, because there has been like shiny new toys this cycle, and they've really come in the form of memes, which is fine. I mean, and if people want to do that, I've done it. I mean, I think that's totally fine, and people want to get into that. But I mean, those aren't they may hold value over time and be fun and everything, but I don't know if they have. I maybe they do as a collective, but any individual meme doesn't really have like the sticking power of like a smart contract, like an investment contract of some
Right.
type. You know what I mean? For somebody who's
Yep.
really serious, and doesn't want to be like, okay, what chain am I going to get on today? Like a crack addict to like figure out what memes maybe. And again, I am basically for memes as much as I am for DeFi, cold DeFi smart contracts. So I don't have a dog in the fight, and I like both. But I am just starting to wonder at some point, this market and still years down the road is going to start slowing down, more and more and more. And, Hex is a smart contract that isn't going away. It can't be turned off. It's DeFi. It's on the blockchain. You interact with the contract, and that's all you do. I just wonder when attention is going to start coming more to this stuff, because we need protocols like this with a cheaper way to transact that aren't holding dirty fiat, and people are going to actually come to it as a real investment vehicle, when they aren't as afraid of volatility and not understanding how to do it and stuff like that. I just think that there's been so little legitimate. I'm trying to be careful here because I'm not just shitting. I'm not trying to shit on memes. I'm just saying there's been so little legitimate innovations this cycle as
Mhm.
opposed to last when there was like a lot of the DeFi trash, but a lot of good DeFi too. That I'm just wondering, like, when will people start to realize what some of these things are and interact with them more again? Because what do we have to show for this cycle so far other than like some AI grifts,
Yeah.
and stuff
Yep.
like that.
Well, I think it's going to take green candles again, and then I really think this is going to be a very cyclical thing. I
Mm,
think green candles are going to entice people to lock this up into the future because they see what. Listen, we know what it's done, right? We know it's made it to 55 cents, 54 cents. We know what it
mm,
can do, um, and when those type of prices happen, you understand the yield. That's why I highlighted checks my pulse. you
yeah,
know, 100,000 hex right now. I'm guessing it's going to be more than 300,000 hex in 10 years.
right.
You're going to probably, that's only 30%. I'm guessing you're probably going to be closer to 500,000 or 600,000 because the T share falls off. The longer out you go, you get more credit for your T shares. The hex per T share daily rate goes up every year, um, and you're also going to hit the halfway point to the 5555s, which means people can emergency end stake, which loses all of their big payday bonuses, which half of that goes back to the stakers.
Right.
So, I'm thinking that 100,000 hex right now for 10 years will probably be six, if not 700,000 hex by the end of
Oh,
the. So, um, yeah. And if you go 15 years, yeah, you could probably 10x that. It would be my guess with all the penalties and everything else, and just the way that the rate goes up.
and
So,
and in terms of price appreciation, like, okay, what if somebody might a doubter, a naysayer might say like, well, I'm never going to see the gains that the original hexagons did or something like that. Well, let's say you don't. Let's say you never do, even though hex on pulse chain is at an all-time low pretty much right now for you to get, and you can see where that goes. You may not, but if you can throw out, what he's talking about, 100K hex right now, that's $400 on pulse chain.
yeah,
It's what,
yeah.
$150 on ETH. So I mean, um, yeah, that's pretty easy to accomplish right now. And if you wanted to do that, we're not telling anybody what to do. I mean, obviously, but if you wanted to do that and take a punt on a few of them like that, I mean, do you actually think the hex price is going to go down more over time?
No,
Like, do you actually
no.
think now maybe any arbitrary date in the future, it could be lower than any other date. Yeah. But I mean, like over time, if you're talking like 5-10 years in the making and stuff like that, even if the gains are depressed, I mean, you look at a chain like Tron right now, for example, that's like getting all this action with memes weirdly out of nowhere. But I mean, it's one of those chains that people are like, it's, Justin Sun doesn't care, it's trash, whatever. And now all of a sudden it's like doing okay this cycle. It's like, no, it's not blowing off tops every single cycle or anything like that. But with HEX, because it's a smart contract where you're printing all this other HEX, if all it does is just, make moderate highs in each bull cycle, and I don't even know that that's what it's going to do, but that could be very worth it for you way down the road.
Yeah.
The further out the stakes are and stuff like that, if you
Yeah.
are open to it.
Yeah, it could be very well worth it. And even if it doesn't go up, who's opposed to making that kind of 40-50% profit? You know what I mean? At the very worst, we don't think it's going to go much lower, especially in 2 cycles. I don't think it's going to die, only because I don't think it's Richard's baby. And we all know he's in it for the glory. He's not going to let that die. It will eventually get traction. And I think, once this case is over, again, who knows how long it'll take, I think you're going to see a different take on this. I think people will actually finally open up and look. It's also brand recognition. You've got this Tagashi, whatever the hell his name is, talking shit about the chain, right? A lot of people are hearing HEX and Pulse Chain for the very first time. Sometimes it takes 5-6 times for someone to hear it and be like, all right, what is this thing? I keep hearing about it.
Yeah.
Yep. Now I need to look into it. These are the type of things that no matter whether it's good advertisement, bad advertisement, it's still brand recognition. And people are still hearing it, right? Over and over and over again. Who is this Richard Hart guy? What is this HEX? What is this Pulse Chain? Why is this bunch of crazy people keep replying in my posts when I say something? A lot of times that's what it is. He's doing it because he knows how crazy these pulsicans and hexicans are. It's engagement farming essentially for him, but it's good for us because there is no such thing as bad advertisement in my mind.
Yeah, I am with you 100% on that point. And something you said a minute ago, too, I want to highlight. Frank Molina was talking about this the other day, and I could not agree with him more. And, people do this in TradFi all the time. But you mentioned, like, it's Richard's baby and all these things. That is some people might be like, oh, okay, who gives a shit, whatever. That's a valid reason to want to invest in something. I mean, like, you look at Elon Musk. I mean, like, his companies and things like that, maybe you don't agree with everything about them or something like that, but if you look at the guy and you look at the strength and mental fortitude of a guy like Elon Musk, do you want to put your chips behind that guy? It's kind of the same thing with Richard Hart. No, it's not just as simple as like, oh, I think that he'll buy his own stock, or I think he'll buy his own tokens or whatever. It's like, it's not as simple as that. It's like, this guy's not fucking going away. Like, he is.
But it could be. It could be that simple.
I'm just saying, like, it's not sitting and hoping that they buy their tokens only. It's also like, this guy is determined. Like you mentioned Glory and his fight for the SEC. He clearly is trying to go in there with a Superman cape on. You know what I mean? Like, he's really wanting to win this for the good of cryptocurrency and for all the principles he believes in. And I'm going to put my fucking chips behind that guy. You know what I mean?
We've seen him from the beginning. Some of the things that he's always preached, he hasn't changed. Like, he hasn't, other than the funny suits and top hat, his messaging has always remained the same. He's always been about freedom fighting. He's always been about, privacy and those type of things and how important they are. And if he would have just stayed that weird Richard in the top hat, I don't know if people would have started to catch on to this crazy guy, because like I said, I do think the outrage marketing turned a lot of people off. Talking about his D and all that stuff.
Red Bull can.
I think a lot of that turned people off. However, his follower account
turned me on.
Wow, good for you. His follower account tripled. So he did get a following from it. It worked. At the same time, did it Did it turn more people off than attracted him? I'm not sure, and I don't think he knows quite yet either. He did eventually say, when it's not working anymore, I'll pivot, and he did that. So again, I'm putting my chips behind that guy too, because he's been the same Richard Hart ever since. His pledge has not changed for what he's out to do. He's out to be the greatest crypto founder ever. He wants to have the best appreciating assets ever, which means he's got several million X to go. Because right now Bitcoin is what is it, 5.7 million X from its all-time low. So he's got a ways to go, and he is in it for the glory. So that's where I'm putting my chips.
Yeah, that was really my point. Is like, there's no, why is it a problem to back the person you believe in, the person that you're investing into? I mean, it's a valid thing. People do it in TradFi as well. That was kind of just my point there. So, yeah, awesome though. To round it back to the beginning, the God whale stuff and him punting the HEX stakes out deep into 2025. Yeah, I think there's a lot to be bullish about. I don't really want to get into any other topics at this point tonight. I think we covered most of the main stuff. You mentioned the Tekashi 6ix9ine thing. I agree with you 100%. Regardless, I mean, he is a dope, I guess. I don't really know much about him, but I'm of the same belief as you. It's like, any kind of brand growth is brand growth. And again, the more people see something, the more likely they're going to check it out and stuff like that. So I'm fully behind it. I don't care about the guy. I'm not like supporting him in any way or retweeting him and stuff like that. Maybe I retweeted one of his tweets. I don't remember. But I'm with you. If somebody's talking good about something that you are behind in marketing, so be it. Or even if they're talking bad, I don't give a shit. Like, let it be out there.